a trusted figure, a guiding hand, a beloved teacher and coach. Now, that name is synonymous with betrayal. We're talking about Christina Formella, once a respected educator at Downers Grove South High School. She now stands accused in a scandal that sent shockwaves far beyond the school's walls. We're looking at over 50 charges, each one painting a picture of an alleged hidden life, a horrifying secret that prosecutors say involved grooming and repeatedly abusing a student. This isn't just one teacher's story, it's a chilling look at how the unthinkable can happen in places we trust the most, and how a community is left reeling, asking, how could this possibly unfold right here? Downers Grove, Illinois. It's a community much like any other, where the local high school is a cornerstone, a place for learning, for growing, and for so many, a safe haven. At Downers Grove South High School, Christina Formella was seen as part of this trusted fabric. She'd been with the district since 2021 and coached soccer since 2020. By all accounts, she was a dedicated special education teacher, someone students felt they could turn to, someone parents believed in. That description, a beloved teacher and coach, now echoes with a truly chilling irony. The school itself, a hub of activity, sports, and academics, relied on people like Formella to nurture and guide its young minds. Parents put their children in her care, trusting in the professional and ethical standards we all expect from educators. In this seemingly ordinary suburban setting, where Friday night lights and school events paint a picture of normalcy, Formella was an accepted, respected part of the educational landscape. It's this image, this carefully constructed facade of the dedicated educator, that makes what came next all the more devastating. It's a stark reminder that darkness can sometimes hide in the most unassuming of places, behind a smile, a helpful gesture, or a position of authority. The betrayal isn't just personal, it's like a tear in the very contract between a community and those it empowers to shape its future generations. That polished veneer, that carefully built image, reportedly began to crack in March 2025. What was the catalyst? A mother's discovery of explicit text messages on her son's phone. That single, horrifying moment kicked off an investigation that would unravel what prosecutors describe as a nearly 2-year-long nightmare. They allege that from January 2023 through the summer of 2024, Christina Formella, who was 28 at the time, began grooming and repeatedly sexually abusing a student who was just 14 years old when the alleged abuse started. The initial allegations were deeply disturbing. The abuse reportedly began during a tutoring session. From there, incidents allegedly occurred both on school grounds, a place that's supposed to be safe for learning, and at Formella's own home. The frequency is shocking. Prosecutors stated they engaged in sexual acts approximately 50 times, with at least 45 of those instances purportedly taking place right there at the school. Following the mother's report, Formella was arrested after a traffic stop. Initially, she faced 3 felony charges, including criminal sexual assault and aggravated criminal sexual abuse. But the scope of the alleged abuse turned out to be far wider. In April 2025, the victim and his parents provided more information to the DuPage County Children's Advocacy Center, revealing even more instances of abuse. This led to a grand jury indictment in May, which was unsealed in June 2025, piling on an additional 52 counts. The charges now include multiple counts of criminal sexual assault, aggravated criminal sexual abuse, 6 counts of grooming, and 6 counts of indecent solicitation of a child. If she's convicted on all charges, Formella could face a sentence of at least 60 years in prison. Formella, who is now 30, has denied all the allegations. Her defense has reportedly claimed the student tried to blackmail her and that she initially told police the student was a stalker. However, authorities noted that her husband seemed completely unaware of any such inappropriate relationship, only knowing the teen as one of the soccer players. Prosecutors also revealed some truly disturbing details, including alleged text messages from Formella to the boy, one reportedly stating, "I love having sex with you." There were also messages about nearly being caught by another teacher, and Formella expressing fear of being charged after a neighbor faced similar accusations. She allegedly told the boy she didn't intend to stay married, claiming her husband was having an affair and that she stood to inherit millions. She even reportedly texted the student while she was on vacation in Italy with her husband. The school district placed Formella on administrative leave as soon as they learned of the initial allegations. They later reported that she resigned from her position and voluntarily surrendered her teaching license on June 17, 2025. That was the day before her arraignment on the new charges. The state filed petitions to deny her pretrial release, arguing she was an ongoing threat. However, Judge Mia McPherson, while calling the allegations horrifying in nature, shocking, and appalling, denied these requests. She concluded the general public was not at risk. So, Formella was released on pretrial conditions. These include being barred from any contact with minors, the victim, and Downers Grove South High School. She's now required to wear a GPS ankle monitor, surrender her passport, and cannot leave Illinois without the court's permission. Her next court appearance is scheduled for August 4, 2025. The news of the charges against Christina Formella didn't just ripple through Downers Grove. It crashed like a tidal wave. This wasn't some distant headline. This was someone in their community, an educator entrusted with their children. The sense of betrayal was palpable, deep, and incredibly widespread. At a packed school board meeting, you can imagine emotions ran high. Parents, students, and community members voiced their heartbreak, their anger, and their profound disappointment. The trust they'd placed in the school, in its teachers, had been violated in the most awful way imaginable. Think about it, sending your child to school, a place you believe to be safe, only to find out it may have been the very setting for repeated trauma. Imagine the conversations happening in homes all across Downers Grove, the fear, the confusion, the really tough questions parents had to tackle with their kids. The alleged abuse didn't just impact one student, it sent tremors of anxiety throughout the entire student body and their families. Friendships among parents, working relationships among teachers, the very atmosphere of the school, all of it became strained under the weight of such horrific accusations. The community's outrage wasn't just aimed at Formella, but also at the systems that might have allowed something like this to happen. Questions started bubbling up. Were there any signs missed? Could more have been done? The school district sent out notifications to families whose children had direct contact with Formella. That was a necessary step, but it also just highlighted how widespread her role was and the potential number of young lives she interacted with. This shattering of trust goes way beyond the individuals involved. It erodes confidence in institutions, forcing everyone to reevaluate safety protocols and how we vet those in positions of power over children. That phrase, beloved teacher, now carries such a heavy weight of irony and pain for the Downers Grove community. Rebuilding that trust? That's going to be a long, tough road, requiring transparency, accountability, and a renewed commitment to making sure a betrayal like this can never, ever happen again. The healing process for the community, much like for the direct victim, will be complex and will take time, and a collective resolve to face the uncomfortable truths this case has dragged into the light. The Christina Formella case, as shocking and localized as it feels to the Downers Grove community, is tragically not some bizarre, isolated incident. It's really a symptom of a larger, more pervasive problem that unfortunately snakes its way through educational institutions all across the nation. When we step back and look at the bigger picture, some disturbing patterns start to emerge, patterns that reveal systemic failures in how schools often handle allegations of abuse and protect the children in their care. These aren't just about individual failings, they're cracks in the very foundation of trust we place in our educational system. One of the biggest issues? Underreporting and delayed action. In far too many cases, abuse isn't reported promptly. Sometimes this is due to fear from the victim, fear from colleagues, or even fear from administrators worried about the institution's reputation. A lack of proper training in recognizing and reporting abuse can also play a huge role. There's often immense pressure, whether it's subtle or overt, to handle things internally, to avoid a scandal, to protect the school's image. But this silence, this hesitation, often comes at the devastating cost of a child's continued suffering. Then there's this insidious thing known as passing the trash. This is where educators accused of misconduct, sometimes even with credible allegations of abuse, are quietly moved to other schools or districts. Their personnel files might be wiped clean, or non-disclosure agreements might be signed, effectively hiding a dangerous history. This allows the cycle of abuse to just continue, with the accused individual potentially harming more children in a new, unsuspecting environment. The statistics here are horrifying. On average, a school employee who abuses children can be passed to 3 different districts and harm up to 73 children before facing any real consequences. A severe lack of transparency is another recurring theme. Schools sometimes prioritize their reputation over the safety of their students, failing to inform parents or law enforcement about allegations or ongoing investigations. This kind of culture of secrecy can create an environment where predators feel emboldened, thinking the system might actually protect them rather than the victims. And compounding all these issues are significant legal and policy gaps. Many states still don't have strong enough laws that mandate the full disclosure of abuse allegations in teacher personnel files. There's often no ban on confidentiality agreements that effectively silence victims or hide misconduct. Federal data itself shows a disturbing trend. Reports of sexual violence in public schools shot up by a staggering 43% between the 2015-16 and 2017-18 school years alone. These systemic flaws create an environment where individuals like Christina Formella can allegedly operate, hidden in plain sight, exploiting the trust placed in them. The 50-plus charges against her, the alleged 2-year duration of abuse, the allegations of incidents happening repeatedly on school grounds, these details don't just point to individual alleged criminality, they point to a system that needs an urgent, critical look. It forces us to ask, what safeguards failed here? And how can we make absolutely sure that our schools are truly safe havens and not hunting grounds? When a case like Christina Formella's explodes into public view, one of the most haunting questions that always follows is, were there signs? Were there whispers, subtle red flags, or odd behaviors that, looking back, hinted at the alleged darkness hidden beneath the surface? Now, we have to be cautious not to speculate on unproven facts in an ongoing case, but understanding how grooming works is so important if we're going to recognize potential dangers. Grooming, which is one of the charges Formella faces, isn't an impulsive act. It's a deliberate, manipulative process that predators use to gain access to and build trust with a potential victim and often their family too. It's a calculated strategy. The alleged details coming out of the Formella case, like the abuse reportedly starting during a tutoring session and the sending of grooming text messages, unfortunately, align with common grooming patterns. Groomers often start by identifying and then fulfilling a child's needs. This could be offering extra help, special attention, gifts, or becoming a confidant. They might share personal information to create a false sense of intimacy and a special connection, making the child feel unique or understood in a way others don't. They work to isolate the child, subtly at first, from their usual support systems, friends, family, other trusted adults. This might involve creating secrets between them and the child, fostering an us against the world kind of mentality. Other red flags can include a teacher showing obvious favoritism towards one particular student, spending excessive one-on-one time with them outside of regular school activities or appropriate contexts, or communicating with them privately through personal channels like text messages or social media, especially if the content becomes overly personal or secretive. The alleged texts from Formella, including those of a sexual nature and discussing her personal life and fears, are deeply concerning in this light. The allegation that she manipulated the boy into turning off location tracking on his phone is another classic grooming tactic. It's all about evading detection and maintaining control. The real challenge here is that many grooming behaviors, especially in their early stages, can easily be mistaken for simple kindness or dedicated teaching. A caring adult who seems to go the extra mile might not initially set off any alarm bells. This is the insidious nature of grooming. It's designed to look innocent, to disarm suspicion. Predators in positions of trust, like teachers or coaches, exploit the inherent power imbalance and the respect their role naturally commands. The community, and indeed the school system, is often left wondering if these subtle cues were present but maybe misinterpreted or just dismissed. Were there moments when a boundary was blurred? An interaction that seemed slightly off? A comment that felt inappropriate but was brushed aside? These are uncomfortable questions, but they're absolutely necessary. Recognizing the nuanced signs of grooming is paramount for prevention. It requires constant vigilance, clear boundary policies, and a culture where students and adults alike feel safe to report concerns without fearing disbelief or retribution. The Downers Grove case serves as a harsh reminder that the beloved figure can sometimes wear the most deceptive mask. The horrifying allegations in the Christina Formella case are a stark wake-up call. They're a demand for real, tangible change, not just in Downers Grove, but in every single school district across the country. It's simply not enough to react with shock and outrage. We have to channel these emotions into concrete actions to better protect our children. And this responsibility? It falls on everyone: parents, students, educators, policymakers, and the public at large. So, for parents and students, vigilance is absolutely key. This doesn't mean living in constant fear, but it does mean fostering open communication. Parents should talk to their children about healthy boundaries, what's appropriate and inappropriate adult behavior, and stress the importance of speaking up if something makes them uncomfortable. It's also wise to monitor your child's communications and relationships with adults at school, not to be intrusive, but to be aware. Know your rights. You have the right to demand transparency from schools regarding staff conduct, investigations, and disciplinary actions. And critically, if you or your child has a concern, report it. Don't hesitate to go to law enforcement, not just school administrators, especially if you fear it won't be handled appropriately internally. For schools and policymakers, the mandate is even clearer. First, enforce mandatory reporting laws with strict timelines and severe penalties for any failure to report abuse to law enforcement and affected families. The days of handling things internally to protect the institution's reputation absolutely must end. Transparency and accountability need to be embedded in school policy. This means requiring schools to meticulously document and disclose all abuse allegations and the outcomes of investigations, even if an allegation is deemed unproven. That dangerous practice of passing the trash has to be eradicated. This requires banning confidentiality agreements that hide misconduct and mandating comprehensive background checks that include a review of all past investigations, not just convictions. And prevention can't just be a one-off training session. It has to be a continuous effort, integrating abuse prevention education into the school curriculum for students and into ongoing professional development for all staff. This includes training on recognizing grooming behaviors, understanding boundary violations, and knowing the correct reporting procedures. The culture within our schools needs a fundamental shift to one where student safety is unequivocally the highest priority. This involves creating safe channels for students to report concerns without any fear of retaliation or disbelief, and ensuring that all reports are taken seriously and investigated thoroughly by the appropriate authorities. For the public, our role is to demand action and accountability. Hold school boards, administrators, teacher unions, and government agencies responsible for enacting and enforcing policies that protect children above all else. Don't let these stories just fade away after the initial shock. Support survivors. Recognize the immense courage it takes for victims and their families to come forward. Ensure they receive the support, resources, and justice they so rightly deserve. The focus must always be on the well-being of the child. As the Christina Formella case moves through the legal system, with her next court appearance set for August 4, 2025, the path ahead is undeniably complex. It's vital to remember the principle of presumed innocence until proven guilty in a court of law. Ms. Formella is entitled to a fair trial where the prosecution has to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. That said, the sheer gravity of the 55 accusations of grooming and repeated sexual assault of a minor over a long period paints an incredibly disturbing picture. For the alleged victim and his family, this journey is undoubtedly one of immense pain and difficulty. Coming forward, as DuPage County State's Attorney Robert Berlin noted, takes incredible courage, especially given the alleged 2-year duration of abuse and the manipulative tactics described by prosecutors. The healing process will be long, requiring extensive support, deep understanding, and access to therapeutic resources. The trauma inflicted by such an alleged betrayal by a trusted authority figure can have profound and lasting psychological impacts. For the Downers Grove community, the road ahead involves not only waiting for the outcome of the legal proceedings but also engaging in a tough process of introspection and rebuilding. That sense of shattered trust in a local institution and its personnel will take time and a serious, concerted effort to repair. This means open dialogue, a commitment to increased vigilance, and a thorough review of policies and practices to prevent anything similar from ever happening again. The school district has already taken steps by accepting Formella's resignation and her surrender of her teaching license. However, the deeper work really involves restoring faith in the safety of the school environment. The court has imposed conditions on Formella's pretrial release, including that GPS ankle monitor and no contact with minors, acknowledging the seriousness of the allegations even while denying detention. If she is convicted of the numerous Class 1 felonies she faces, the potential for a sentence of at least 60 years in prison really underscores how seriously the legal system views such crimes. Beyond the specifics of this particular case, the road ahead for all of us in society involves learning from these horrifying incidents. It means constantly reevaluating and strengthening child protection measures, fostering environments where children feel safe to speak out, and holding accountable not only the individuals who perpetrate abuse but also the systems that might, even inadvertently, enable it. Justice, in its fullest sense, involves more than just a verdict in a courtroom. It involves implementing the changes that ensure such betrayals of trust become far, far less common. The community will be watching, hoping for both justice and a path toward healing. The details of the Christina Formella case are deeply unsettling, and they really highlight issues that demand our full attention. If you found this report important, if you believe these stories need to be told and these patterns need to be understood, please share this video. Let's work together to make sure every parent, every student, and every educator knows the signs of grooming and abuse. What are your thoughts? How can communities and school systems do a better job of protecting students? Share your insights and suggestions in the comments below. Open discussion is such a crucial step towards creating safer environments for our children. And if you want to stay informed on stories like this and analyses of the systemic issues behind them, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Downers Grove scandal. These allegations against Christina Formella serve as a potent and incredibly painful reminder. This isn't just a story about one teacher's alleged horrific betrayal or one school's crisis. It's a reflection of a systemic vulnerability that too often fails to adequately shield the most vulnerable among us, our children. The charges of grooming, of repeated abuse happening within the very walls meant for education and safety, are a call to action that we simply cannot ignore. DuPage County State's Attorney Robert Berlin called the new allegations beyond disturbing, and he thanked the victim for his courage. That courage has to be met with our own, the courage to confront uncomfortable truths, to demand greater transparency and accountability from our institutions, and to commit ourselves to the relentless pursuit of reforms that place student safety above absolutely everything else. Real, lasting change starts with awareness, but it must be fueled by collective action. Every child in every community deserves to be safe at school. Let the echoes from Downers Grove be a catalyst for that unwavering commitment.